Sherry Layton. My concern is I totally agree with defunding Obamacare, or if we can't defund it, let it happen and make them go all the way so that people actually understand what it is they're getting. This idea of delaying it, I think, is a really bad idea because you can just buy too many people up before the next election, like what they've been doing with everything else.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sherry. I appreciate that a lot. This is an issue that a lot of people feel passionately about on both sides of the issue. But let me tell you what I'm hearing from other people throughout our state. As I travel the state from one corner to another, I'm hearing a few consistent themes. One is that people are telling me my hours are being cut as a result of Obamacare. Another is that my employer is firing people because of Obamacare. Another is that my employer has told me either that our health insurance provider will no longer be operating, will no longer be providing insurance, or in many cases, it'll be that plus our health insurance premiums are going to go way up. We've known for several months that health insurance premiums would go way up under Obamacare, and that in this respect, Obamacare is making health care less affordable rather than more. What we've also been told in more recent weeks is that the President won't be implementing, he won't be enforcing the law as it was written. He has, by executive fiat, changed the way the law will be implemented, changed the way the law reads in at least 3 respects. He said that he's not going to enforce the employer mandate, but he is going to enforce the individual mandate. He said that he's not going to enforce the income verification provisions for purposes of determining eligibility under the exchange subsidy program, and that he won't be enforcing and implementing the provisions limiting out-of-pocket expenses. What this latter change would do is keep the increase in premiums artificially low during that first full year of Obamacare's implementation, so as to avoid the sort of sticker shock that comes, so that it's more of a delayed effect. Any way you look at it, I believe that Obamacare is likely to make health care less affordable, and that the way that it's being implemented is fundamentally unfair. This is a law that was passed a few years ago, 2,700 pages long, not read by anyone who voted for it. It was amended twice by the Supreme Court of the United States in order to sustain it. I believe this was wrong. A majority of the court actually found, as I read it, that the law was unconstitutional as written, and the Supreme Court essentially reformulated it twice in order to save it. So it wasn't read by those voting for it, hasn't improved with age as the Supreme Court has amended it and as the President has amended it. I believe that in light of this, in light of the expense issues, and in light of the fact that the President has said he's not going to follow the law, Congress shouldn't fund it. Now, there are those who have attacked, thank you. There are those who have accused this effort, have accused me of threatening a government shutdown in doing this. Let me explain my side of that. That isn't true. What I've said from the very outset is that I want Obamacare funding to be decided on its own merits and not on the merits of national defense spending or any other federal priority. What we've been left with in the last few years is a situation that is heretofore unprecedented. We have for the last 4 years funded everything in government through one bill, a type of bill called a continuing resolution that funds all the operations of government, everything wrapped into one. $3.5 to $4 trillion of spending. It lies in that one bill, either allowing existing mandatory spending streams to continue on path, or in other cases, directing new discretionary spending to remain at previous levels. And when we do that, when we spend in one bill, we create an artificial environment in which people are told, you've got to do all or nothing. Now, this was never supposed to work this way. We wouldn't put up with this anywhere else, and we shouldn't put up with it here. Imagine, for instance, that if you went to the grocery store, and if it was a grocery store out in a very, very remote area, only grocery store for 100 miles, you were told by your spouse, don't come home before bringing home bread, milk, and eggs. We're out of those things. We need those. Buy bread, milk, and eggs. You go and you pick up those items. You put them in your grocery cart. You get to the checkout counter, and the cashier tells you, you may not buy bread, milk, and eggs alone. And you say, well, that's weird. Why? Well, because we have a special rule at our store. You may not buy bread, milk, and eggs unless you also buy a half ton of iron ore, which you can put in a wheelbarrow and load in the back of your truck, a big bucket of nails, and a book about cowboy poetry, and a Barry Manilow album. And you say, you know, I don't even like Barry Manilow, and I don't need iron ore. And they say, well, too bad. If you want these items, you'll buy those items too. In that extortive environment, you might end up buying things that you don't want, that you don't need, because that's your only choice. That's unfortunately how the United States Congress has been operating for the last 4 years. It's unfortunate, it's unnecessary, and here it would be especially wrong because we're about to embark on a really, really big experiment, one that a lot of people are concerned about. Obamacare needs to be funded or not funded on its own merits. And those, thank you. Those who are calling this a shutdown threat are saying that they themselves would be willing to shut down the government in the sense that they're saying, you either fund Obamacare or we're not going to let you fund national defense or transportation priorities or any other federal program. And that's not fair. What I'm saying is that this is a big new program. It needs to be funded or not funded on its own merits and not on the merits of everything else.